All right, guys, welcome back to another video. It's your man Jay. We're going to be looking at the iPhone 17 versus the Pixel 10. Now, both of these phones are, I guess, accordingly grouped. They both cost the same, that's for sure. So we'll start with price. They definitely cost the same. These are $7.99 each, and you'll have to make a decision on which blue you want. This is kind of an indigo, but this is considered blue for Apple. So we're going to do a quick rundown of these phones, hardware and cameras probably, and battery conversation and things like that. Just have a brief discussion about these phones and my opinion on them. So first things first, like I said, they both cost $7.99. So you might think that is equally matched, but it is actually not. The iPhone has a 256 gigs of storage for $800, and the Pixel does not. The Pixel has 128 gigs of storage. Again, it's always a shame that these companies are still doing this to consumers. Both these phones really should have 256 gigs of storage. There's no question about that. They both are eSIM, unfortunately, so that's kind of a bummer. But for $800, you're getting 256 gigs on the iPhone 17, and that's the advantage. A check mark goes to the iPhone 17. Now, when we look at hardware, first of all, both of these phones have a 6.3-inch display, but the iPhone 17 has a more compact body, and when it comes to just what it's offering physically, it's got a higher resolution. So you've got a display of 1206 by 2622 versus 1080 by 2424 on the Pixel. Now that's something that's kind of really not small, but it is something that you should take note of. You've got the same size display in a more compact body. That's why. So dimensions on these phones are really nice. It's amazing how Apple really took advantage of the dimensions on here. So you've got 149 versus 152. And you might say, well, that doesn't really, you can't really tell. Yes, you can. When you get these in hand, you'll physically see that they're smaller. The iPhone 17 is smaller. And then also the Pixel is a little bit thicker, believe it or not, a little bit wider. 8.6 versus 8. That might mean something to a lot of people. But you really can tell in some instances that the Pixel is bigger, and physically you can really tell. Now, as far as width goes, it's so small, but you can actually feel it if you line them up in your hands. Physically, the iPhone gets another point because it's only 177 grams versus the 204 grams on the Pixel. And here's where it's kind of strange. Sometimes the iPhone feels a little heavier. It's weird. Yeah, it's kind of strange. So, physically, yeah, the iPhone is better already in some ways. But my personal opinion on the hardware, I definitely like the Pixel better. Like the physical look of it, this is way more stunning and a beautiful piece of hardware in comparison to the iPhone 17. The iPhone 17, these both technically have somewhat of a dated design, but more so for the iPhone 17, I think. How many generations did it look like this? Well, I guess they shuffled the camera too, so we'll just leave it at that. They both have somewhat of a dated design, but this Pixel 10 looks just extraordinary versus their previous generation Pixels. Man, this bigger camera bar right here is more uniformed. It's just really good. Now, advantage goes to the Pixel when it comes to the physical hardware. And in one area, it has 3 cameras. That might mean something to someone, even if the cameras aren't like spectacular, or they're not like just this top notch. It's still there. It has a telephoto, an ultra wide, and a main sensor. It does. Now, as I continue to read over the specs here and look these over physically, I do like the way the Pixel looks a lot better. But they both have a 48 megapixel main camera that is a wide lens. So the Pixel has a 48 megapixel at f1.7 with 25 millimeters, and the iPhone has a 48 megapixel at f1.6 at 26 millimeters. So you've got, when you look at the sensors on these cameras, though, that is where the iPhones are better at it. And so, and quality of this actually really shows when taking video on the phone. Now, the Pixels have always been really good at portrait photos and things like that, but I think Apple has caught up and probably passed them, according to some people. But I think these both are measured up. They're really good. But I give the advantage to Apple for cameras for sure. You have a 48 megapixel wide lens, and then you have a 13 megapixel wide lens on the Pixel. But it does have that 10 millimeter telephoto lens. I don't use telephoto lenses like that, so yeah, it is what it is. But in the end, I just think I can read all these specs all day, but the quality of the cameras definitely goes to the iPhone 17. It's just better in every way. The footage just looks so much better. And then you have a more advanced camera system on the iPhone as well. And that's why. But for $800, Apple is definitely winning this battle so far. Now, an area where I think some people really would take the iPhone over the Pixel is the front camera. They have a much more advanced front camera, and I really hope companies copy this. I hope Google copies it. While the dual recording isn't new, everybody on Apple's side, it's new to them. Android phones have had dual recording, like where you can record the front and the rear camera at the same time. That's not. I don't even use that feature in my daily life, but I do use the front camera on the iPhone a heck of a lot more. It is absolutely stunning to use over the rear camera sometimes for vlogs, because I get a front camera that can do everything the rear camera can do and more. So the iPhone definitely takes the advantage with this 18 megapixel multi-aspect ratio camera, meaning you can go ultra wide or just standard. You can shoot portrait. The front camera on here has Dolby Vision HDR and 3D spatial audio with stereo recording. Apple want you to use this front camera a lot. It really is there, man. It does 1080p at 120 frames. Yeah, and it also does 4K at 60, 25, 24, and 30, while the Pixel just does 4K at 30. Yeah. So they both have stereo speakers, and they both have Bluetooth 6.0, something that people just don't point out a lot. But, an advantage here goes, again, to Apple when it comes to their bands, because Apple has Wi-Fi 7, and the Pixel still is on Wi-Fi 6E. And I know this is like a tech battle, but the fact of the matter is, it is true. What I'm saying here, you can read all these things yourself or go check it on the supporting websites. So an area where the Pixel probably finally really not, and it doesn't even really beat up on the iPhone 17, it's battery life. It has almost a 5,000 milliamp hour. 4970 is in here in the Pixel. However, the iPhone 17 has a 3692 battery, but it's actually really good because Apple's standby time is strong. It's strong. Both of these phones can charge fairly fast, but again, surprisingly enough, the iPhone gets to 50% within 20 minutes. Yeah, and if it's on MagSafe, it gets there in 30 minutes. The Pixel, wired charging just isn't as fast, and it may sound like I'm being really biased, but I'm just reading the specs here. And giving my personal opinion after using both of these for some time. So in the end, taking all these specs away and just kind of just looking at it for what it is, on paper, the iPhone is better. And then in real life, the iPhone does do better at video recording. But the Pixel software is now being matched by Apple. They have call screening. They've taken a lot of things that are already on the Pixels and have been on Pixel software for so long. And this is why a lot of people feel like more than likely this is probably the best phone on the market. Not just if you're looking for an $800 phone or a phone that can do pro level things, this iPhone is probably it. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have the telephoto lens, but do you really need it? Probably not. Probably not. This software from Apple is just solid. It's solid. It really is, man. I have no complaints about the software. So when you run it back, I give the design and hardware overall to the Pixel, like looks, everything, but the feel in hand is better on the iPhone 17 because it's just a hair smaller. However, the iPhone has 256 gigs of storage. The software has caught up to Google with like these certain things that Google phones could do. Only now Apple can do it as well. The screens on both of these are really nice, but the cameras are much better on the iPhone 17, especially the front camera. I mean, this is just an embarrassment at this point for Google, because before the iPhone 17, the 16 was here, but the Pixel 10, it's really a strong phone. But then when you start to compare apples to apples, no pun intended, the iPhone 17 is just better. Software is smooth. The processor is crazy fast. The production of the performance is good. Battery life is good. While it may not match the Pixel, in some areas, it possibly could be better depending on the user. And then when you get down to the flat out price, you're just getting more on the iPhone 17. Simply put, winner, iPhone 17.